You're listening to Ka-Pow, the pop culture podcast. Comics, television, movies, and more. If it impacts fan culture, we have something to say about it. And now, your hosts, Jordan, Cliff, and Seth.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Your timing was right.
That was better.
Was that a Western accent?
That's my drawl.
Yeah.
Southern
Hey,
drawl.
quick question. We're talking about Westworld today, guys. By the way.
Howdy.
Well, you're really into that. I have all these. I collect these AI figures. If you ever see advertised in one of those books at Asylum that they're coming out with some McFarlane Westworld figures or something, I would like to have some. All they have is Funko Pops.
Consider it done, compadre. I'm your Huckleberry.
There you go. That's what I'm looking for.
Howdy, y'all. Thanks for tuning in to Westworld Recap. My name's Jordan Lowe. Tip my cap to you.
I'm Cliff Barnes.
I'm Seth No Michael, and I don't know what he's still doing in the intro.
Maybe he's not in the intro anymore.
Oh,
maybe I cut it out.
Ooh, time switch. My brain's jumbled like Bert Arnold. Okay.
So Michael has been written out of our memories.
Yeah.
And replaced with what?
He's my core memory.
What is Michael replaced this week? We have to pick something new every week.
Ooh.
He's my core memory that I keep coming back to, and I keep coming back, and I still keep making fun of him, and I can't be retrained. I have the simplest of code. All right, we're going to talk about we're just basically going to talk about the last episode of Westworld Season 2 and share our thoughts and feelings on this second season as we go through here.
Because Season 1, we did a deep dive, or you guys did.
Yes.
Yes.
Very deep.
Episode by episode, theory by theory, cracking all the mysteries, and we kind of slacked a little bit this year.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean we weren't watching. We were involved, so we want to do at least one Westworld-centric episode if you missed those from years past.
Yeah, so if you're a fan of Westworld or episodes about Westworld that we do, here you go.
So that's all you're getting this episode, and it's going to be spoilers from the get-go. So if you haven't finished Season 2 yet, bookmark us and come back later.
You're not going to want to listen to it. Unless you're Teasley and you just listen to it anyway.
Yeah, it doesn't
because you want to hear us speculate about stuff and be like, what are they even talking about?
Much obliged, Teasley.
We appreciate it. Okay. So we started out...
Westworld.
Exactly. Where's that?
We used to have a guy that did that. I don't know whatever happened to him.
We had...
what was Pizza Time?
Pizza Time.
Oh my gosh. Pizza Time. Yeah. We'll talk about that's a Ka-Pow After Dark episode.
Weren't you supposed to, is that in the second?
No, I didn't go back and listen to those because I hadn't watched the show yet, so. But I remember certain references, and I remember feeling left out because I didn't get an inside joke.
All right. We started out with the pairing of Dolores and Arnold sitting there like they did in the first season in the basement when they were trying to confuse us with who she was talking to, Arnold or Bernard. Well, we get to see this again, and we see that she's trying to make a new Arnold, and she was making Bernard. We found out in this episode that Ford didn't make Bernard. She had spent so much time, Arnold, trying to learn about her that she had learned about him more than anyone, even Ford had.
Yeah, she had kind of recorded all his little nuances and knew him.
So it was her job to create him, and she basically says, you're not perfect, you're not exactly him, but she realizes maybe that's good because Arnold didn't really work out. He ended up wanting to die.
Yeah.
And
more Arnold than Arnold.
Right,
Arnold
exactly. Yeah, get some white zombie in there. Anyway, so she's like, kind of hinting already that the hosts are a superior being and maybe he's better this way.
Are we going to debate that?
I hope.
By the way, now it would be flatbread pizza time. Hashtag keto life.
I don't remember what pizza time was either.
Yeah, Michael was having pizza time in his, yeah. Never mind.
Oh,
don't worry.
Now I remember. Crap. All right.
Go back and listen to season 1.
So anyway, this was trial number 11,927.
Wow.
So they've been working on this for a while.
The Westworld people are very blasé with, they just shoot people and stab people and throw people in piles and they basically have a limitless supply of new robotic material. They're never careful. They just they don't seem to recycle or.
You're very upset about that.
It's very wasteful in a future where I'm assuming people are going without. I don't know where I'm going.
I don't either.
I'm just saying, how long would it take to do 11,000 trials? What time period are we talking here? Does she have to stop and make a new brain each one, or download a new thing?
I don't think it was that involved. I assume it was just popping in a new brain or a new ball or whatever, and because he just starts right back up with "I was lost, my thoughts" type thing. I don't know. There's so much you just have to just.
Well, they kept burning the copies of Delos. Remember?
Yeah, burn the room up.
Yeah, the whole room. They
destroyed the whole room.
You gotta go buy a new mattress.
Right. Yeah.
You know how much those cost?
$10,000 hourglass.
Yes.
That hourglass in there was a $10,000. In reality, they paid that for that, and they shot all this stuff before they then they broke it for real, and but it was you could have found a cheaper hourglass. So yes, wasteful. Yeah. You're right. Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
You work on that. So we go back, we see Dolores where Teddy had killed himself. She wakes up there beside him.
She turned Teddy into something he didn't want to be.
Right.
And she manipulated him as people had manipulated her all these years. Yeah. So.
And what'd she do?
Teddy couldn't take it.
She takes his brain ball, we'll call it, out of his head, and she sees the slug that he killed himself with. She takes that. It's smashed up against the brain ball, and she puts that in her pocket. So she's going to use that shortly.
Chekhov's brain ball.
Exactly. Yes.
And we have an episode title.
Chekhov's brain ball. So yeah, she goes and meets up with the man in black, and he's there digging around his arm still, and she, kind of makes a truce with him that she needs him to get where she's going. It's kind of what, but we have to just kind of roll with it. They both have done the same thing, kind of like you're saying. They both turned their people against them. They've ruined the lives of people around them, and they need to move on. But before she approaches him, she finds his revolver on the ground, and she inserts that slug that had killed Teddy. And that was a little confusing to some people, but I had looked up last season because his gun was special. You see him flipping, doing things, something with the mechanism, and it's called a Lamat revolver. And it shoots regular, bullets, but it also shoots a shotgun shell. And he has to maneuver it to use that. And she knows that bullets aren't going to hurt her. But if he does turn on her, and he were to use the shotgun shell, that might hurt her. So she puts that in there. And, that plays out later in the episode.
Well, what are our feelings on William? I don't know. To me, that first season, he was the reason I'm watching. I want to see what he's up to. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It just seemed kind of different this season. Did anybody else have a different?
Well, this season, I enjoyed his storyline immensely the first season. This is a little more of an emotional season for him. He's coming back, trying to what we saw in whatever episode, maybe the 7th, I think, where we saw flashes with him and his wife.
Yeah, we see so much more of him in the real world outside of
he's a
Westworld.
Philanthropist helping the people, but he's kind of discovered he's a terrible person. Really, he thinks he wants to follow that reality and be in Westworld
But it's not like, I don't mind if he's a terrible person, but like that first season he was so competent and he knew what was going on every step of the way and he was always ahead of you. And this season always seemed like he's just lost and like he was behind everyone else what was going on, and I didn't get a clear mission. He just seemed like he'd gone insane. Like he wasn't, he's trying to find the center of the maze or whatever. It just seemed like he was, I'm just moving forward because I don't know what else to do.
And I think, what I think about that is, as we go through this episode, I think that is kind of explained how that's the simple code of a human, and he can't do anything beyond that. He is stuck in that, and he is going to fulfill that. He's going to end up, we saw in the previous episodes, he ends up killing his daughter because he's so obsessed with this world and thinking Ford is in everyone, and ends up killing his daughter, and he can't stop doing that, We'll get there. It's a good question. I don't know the exact answer to any of this. I only have opinions.
And he also takes an awful lot of punishment.
Oh yeah,
and just gets right up and keeps going.
Yeah,
yeah. Well, yeah. Again, I think there's some explanation for some of that. So they ride off. They're going to go to where were they headed? They say the Valley Beyond.
The Valley Beyond, yeah.
They use some of these names pretty loose for where you're going, but where all the stuff's going down. Plus the timeline.
They're going to the crack.
Yeah. Yeah, the crack. So then we see Bernard. He's walking around and he looks out off the top of a hilltop and sees the line of people, all the hosts going to the crack, as you say.
Yeah, the crack.
They're going there to escape the promised land is what they're calling it. They want to go there, and
a world where they can be free.
Right. And we've got Maeve's daughter and her new mom and Akichita, our great character from the 8th episode.
And that seemed a little off when that happened to me, where the whole I gotta find my daughter, and the whole time I'm thinking, oh, she's gonna enter into this this old loop. How's she gonna react to this other mom that's gonna be like, I was thinking that from the beginning, and she gets there and is super surprised that the girl has a mom out on the plains. I'm like, had she not thought of that there would be someone filling that mom role? Right. It seemed like a big shock to her.
Then we also see the line of Delos, vehicles driving there too, and I thought it was really awesome watching Clementine ride that white horse leading them. She is basically their bomb. They have turned her on and sent her that way, and they're just following her to see what happens when she gets there to try to stop all this. And meanwhile, Maeve and Hector Armistice and Lee Sizemore, that they've been dragging around this whole season, the writer of everything, they're trying to get away from some of the Delos people.
Right.
Well, Maeve is in there. She's all torn up, and they're coming there to save her. She rebuilds herself. There's the great scene with the bulls. That was awesome. And those guys
tearing through that room.
I see people talk about those future machine guns they have, which I think is hilarious because they are P90s, or what they're called. They're real guns. They're just red. Mm-hmm. I've fired one. they were in
Was
gold.
it red?
No, it was black. But they're real guns. They're made by F&H, but they use They were in GoldenEye, the video game, a million years ago.
They weren't red, though.
You could use... That's true. That's true. But it's just like, it's funny. They are such a futuristic gun, looking gun, because they have like a round thing in the front and stuff, but they're like 25 years old. They just painted them red, but it's future guns.
So that's what, a Kalashnikov or whatever is 50 years old, M16 or whatever. It's the same basic gun. So why...
AK-47.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Guns don't change.
Yeah, guns don't change. Boom.
You can paint them.
You cannot argue with this guy. This guy is right. He's right. Anyway. So, Man in Black. We get a little showdown between her and Dolores and Man in Black, and he does end up. Well, they find Bernard, and that's what happened. They find Bernard, and he's like, "Who the heck is he?" Because he doesn't even know he never saw Arnold.
Yeah,
he never knew what he looked like, and she's like,
I'm assuming most people in the park at the moment didn't.
No. The only one anyone knew was Bernard. Arnold died before the park really began.
Yeah.
And so she's like, this is who you've been looking for all this time. And he said, but he still thinks it's like Ford, and he ends up wanting to kill him. So he starts shooting her and does what she suspected he would, if he did try this. She'd be protected. He puts a gun to her head, with the shotgun shell, and blows his hand off.
Yep.
If you don't use that on them red guns, he'd be all right.
That's right.
Yeah. Should have painted his gun. She wouldn't have known it was his.
True.
Plot hole. There's a lot of plot holes in this. There's stuff I couldn't get hung up on.
Yeah, that's just...
Now, who knows Bernard's a robot, who doesn't? Surely there are tests. Like, he just walks around freely.
Yeah.
Surely there would be, they'd be testing every 10 feet, and there would be mass murder on one room and 2 doors down. Everyone's just kind of calmly typing on the computer, and dead bodies everywhere. And then robots, like, I didn't quite get how they gain sentience, some of them. And other ones are still, they're chopping firewood and they're still playing their part, where other ones have completely understood what they are, and other ones just seem kind of confused but want to kill people. So there seem to be different levels of consciousness, and I didn't get a good sense of how it spreads, what triggers it, who knows what.
Well, last year it was kind of got triggered by saying these violent delights have violent ends. I think it's just certain characters, and they've kind of focused on characters that have just been able to find that higher consciousness somehow by having possibly a deep love with another host, like a Kichita and
he did it. He did it on his own,
right? Exactly,
the code word,
exactly. And Maeve, her daughter, and they've just by developing an emotion, I think, has a lot to do with it.
And it's fine keeping it vague, because you might want to later down the road change something. And
besides, I only need so much exposition. Don't explain everything to me.
Says the guy who explained everything to us
with the notebook.
That's right. So Bernard and Dolores go down. They're going down underground in the facility. They're wanting to go to the forge. And also we see Strand, which is the bald guy, kind of, he's like the Delos leader with Charlotte. Right. They're also going down, but we can tell that it's, and I think they're with Bernard also. It's 2 different times this is happening, obviously. The time with Dolores is earlier, because they get down there and find her dead,
right?
And they're asking what happened, So, and they're still looking for Abernathy, which is Dolores' dad. The whole time Charlotte's been looking for Abernathy, wanting the information,
But that also answered my main question from the first season, was how is this technology only in a theme park? Mm-hmm. If they have this amazing technology to create these hosts, even if Ford kept it very close to the vest, people wouldn't spend millions of dollars to make a theme park. They would be building cars and fighting wars. So we figured out they still haven't perfected how to transfer consciousness, and there's still a lot of bugs in the system. So that could possibly answer that query, that there are no hosts in the outside world, and it's still kept kind of contained.
Right. Did you watch Ex Machina yet?
Yes.
You had to. What was it? This had to have affected how that movie was. Having seen Ex Machina before Westworld came out, it had to be a different experience than watching it now.
I think I knew too much about the movie to really be wowed by it.
I think having seen Westworld's such a more complicated version of almost the same thing that I don't think it would live up to what it was for us a couple years ago. So,
and it also, all the things I've heard about it, of it's so scary and she's so creepy, and I was expecting the robot to be the evil one, and plus I don't trust robots anyway, so I'm always assuming robots are the bad guys.
So Bernard and Dolores go in the forge. They have that white light around their heads, and they're standing there, but they go mentally into the forge, and they go through the door and come out, and they're in Westworld. It's like a simulation, and they see James Delos there, when he first had bought the place, and he's running through, he kind of went crazy in there and stuff, and they go further under there and see all the different versions of him, testing him, trying to make it's very sketchy what's going on. It's I don't know exactly. I'm not going to claim I know exactly how all that works. But what we do is we meet an AI of the Forge. The AI running these simulations, and it is in the form of Logan, his son. And the reason being because Logan is his core thing. It was his main purpose. They even ask him, they show him being asked under there, the dad, what are you about? I'm about my son. I just love my son, and that's all I care about. But he's, screw up, but I still love him. And then we get to the part where, we know Logan had OD'd after that, but we saw the one moment that was that defined James Delos was when he went outside and Logan was sitting there by the pool, and he says, you need to get out of here if you're here for money. Get out of here. You're not getting any. Clean yourself up and come back. And Logan's like, I did. And what'd you tell me when I came back? He's like, I told you it wouldn't last. And it didn't. But he's like, it's basically saying nothing's going to be good enough for you. And he tells his dad, I'm all the way down now. And that just kicked me in the gut. Because if you remember the episode where they were running, had James Delos, as a host in that circle room, and he goes nuts in it, and he's scratching his face off, cutting it up in the mirror and looking into it, saying, I'm all the way down now. And I was like, that was what was eating him up, because, and as that Logan AI goes on to explain, we humans are they found out we aren't a complicated code. Mm-hmm. We're just 10,000 lines of code. So simple. That was the problem all along. We were making it too complicated. We are in a loop. We will always react the same way. It's possible we are the ones without free will. We will always do the same thing. No matter what happens, every time they get to that point, he always turned his son away. And it, even though he knew it shouldn't, and it ate him up inside, it drove him crazy. He just never could do the right thing. And I was amazed by that line. I'm all the way down. I was like, man, that was so great that they buried that earlier in the season. So anyway, they got to... let's see. I don't want to skip ahead. Let's see what happened.
You don't want to mess up the timeline.
No, exactly. Well, as they reveal things. I liked when he was talking about they got to the library there and had all the books and had everybody's names on it, and and Dolores is going through and looking, and they get out and they're flipping through it, and these 10,000 lines of code that define a person are all player piano notes. And that's so straight from earlier when that line that Ford had where he's talking about Mozart and Beethoven and Chopin, they didn't die, they just turned into music. And all I could think was a Ghost Story. Remember last year, I loved that movie, and you watched it. That monologue that guy gives in the center, of the movie, and talking about how you can only hope to be live on as art or music. I was like podcast, yeah, just live on. Anyway, so humans are super predictable. We're learning,
which that's
fine.
That. I'll buy that. I'll go with that reality.
Right. I loved that was what it was. That wasn't something I was expecting.
My only real qualm is, I don't know, their data's a little skewed because, okay, I'm going to figure you out by how you play this game. I said, when you play a video game and you murder a bunch of people, does that mean you're an awful person? Because people are going to this world where they're saying this is them at their most free. Well, is it?
Yeah, I don't agree with that. I don't think that's what they're saying.
Well, this is like them, their id. They've let their id run wild and what they really would like to do in the world, which I'm not exactly sure would be.
Yeah, I don't know that. I don't think that most people would go into that situation thinking, I'm going to go do what I would really do.
Yeah, so what can you discern? People don't act, when they go on vacation to the Bahamas or whatever, they act differently than they do at work or they do at home. So, you're judging a person by their least noble environment. Well,
I think I guess I choose to look at it like they learn that and they learn how they are normal, and it's not that complicated. Mm-hmm. We are so simple. It's the hosts that could have much more choices than we do and change their minds.
Brain balls.
Then we get the scene where I did not like this character the first season, Lee Sizemore, the writer.
Yeah, they definitely
the
redeemed
second
him
season.
a little bit,
I loved him all season. He told Hector early in the season. Hector was basically what he thought he wanted to be. He gave him all the best things to say. And would get jealous when Hector would say them and things. He should be with Maeve and things like that. And Hector stands up to hold off the Delos people with their crazy future guns, and he starts to give the speech that he never got to give in the first episode of the first season. When Hector comes and robs the Mariposa, he's had given a speech, and he comes there, and Sizemore's like, I wrote him a new speech. This is going to be so great. And what's happened? He gets right up there to give it, and some guest just kills him before it, and he's so disappointed. Well, he gets to this is the speech, and he's like, I wrote these are my effing words anyway. And the music swells. I've heard people say they didn't like this because it was silly that he sacrificed himself in this way.
Yeah, he could have given the speech from behind a rock.
Right.
Yeah.
He didn't have to walk out into a hail of
I agree. And the first time it played a little bit like that to me, but having watched it again, it's my favorite scene in the whole thing because the music is so good, and he delivers that speech amazingly. If you find a clip of it, Cliff, put it in here because it's just. I love it.
And the lesson is, if you're looking for a reckoning is what you'll find. Put down your weapon. If you're looking for a villain, then I'm your man. But look at yourselves. This world you've built is bound by villainy. You sleep on the broken bodies of the people that were here before you. Warm yourselves with their embers. Plow their bones into your fields. Not after you, sir. Don't do this. You paid them for this land with lead. And I'll pay you back in blood. Sir, drop your weapon and come out with your hands up. You wanted me? Well, all I can say to that is... You're right, fucking...
Anyway, he saves them. These guys grin at each other because they're like, we hate this stupid show.
That's a request. No, that's just a request.
Yeah.
We don't ask for much, Cliff.
If
just
you find a clip.
I've got it on my TV in there if you want to record it. Let's see. So Dolores reads the book.
Page 2?
Oh
you
my
just
God.
flipped your notebook page?
Wow.
That's
multiple pages.
Yeza.
So Dolores is reading some of these books. She can't read them all, but there's like 4 million people represented.
Yeah, and that's another thing. She spends 5 minutes in the library. It's like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I get mankind.
Yeah. I got them all figured out.
I assume she picked certain people. We did see that she read Strand's book. Mm-hmm. She, not too far away, was Charlotte's book on the shelf.
Like the worst people.
Right. And there was several other names that were not any characters on the show, but I assume that they will show up next season. So I'm not even going to bother. They weren't recognizable names. But anyway, she's basically just learning their pressure points. Just like if she were to read a book about James Delos, it would probably talk about Logan. You know, if she were to read a book about Will, it would probably talk about Emily, his daughter. You know. Anyway, she's just getting another better understanding of them. So we see the crack. You know, the people are arriving at the crack, and we see the valley beyond. And the one guy, Indian guy that we didn't know, he runs through, and we see how it works. And perfectly, they don't have to explain it to us. We see how it works. He runs up, falls off a cliff, but his information, goes into the valley beyond. He's happy, and we see, boop, on the computer screen, there he is. That information is entered. So, okay, we get it. That's how it's going to work. And we get to see Felix and Sylvester. They're looking over, and they don't see the crack because they're human. Okay, so we know how it all works. In comes Clementine, and she is basically the virus. In this
Behold
computer.
a pale horse.
Yes. Ooh, yeah. Give it to us. What's that from? Where's your accent?
The Bible. That's from the Bible, y'all. And that opponent was death.
Yeah.
And Clementine.
Oh, they even said something about Charlotte says right around there, I guess one horseman of the apocalypse will have to do, or something like that. Good call. So she goes through and creates this virus, and everybody starts fighting each other and not escaping into
Which this was all possible because of Maeve. They figured out how to transmit controls and signals, right?
Right. So some people aren't affected. Some of the stronger ones aren't affected. Maeve starts looking for her daughter. She ends up finding, the daughter, and Armistice ends up shooting and killing Clementine, but it's too late. The virus is there. It's still causing people to act crazy. And then Maeve stops the crowd, which was pretty awesome. When she holds up her hand, I just like how her sleeve, her arm came out of her sleeve and stuff. It was such a Red Sea Moses moment. And everybody just freezes. It was pretty awesome. Then we see the Man in Black. Okay, we're back to after he's blown his hand off, and he's sitting
He's
there.
still going. He's been shot 15 times.
Well, that was, He stands up. They've left him. He's outside of the forge to go downstairs or whatever down there, and he walks over to get on the elevator. All of this is possibly hundreds of years in the future. This is no longer the current timeline. This is the stinger afterwards. And, this is his loop.
Mm-hmm.
Which we'll get to more of that, and the reason we know that is because when we
Cliff's like, you don't have to explain it to him. I'm on board.
I watched it.
Yeah, right.
I didn't need a notebook.
Okay, so tell us why we know that, Cliff.
One thing I was going to mention while you were talking.
This subject.
No, I was really surprised that Anthony Hopkins was back for season 2. Because earlier in the season,
they did that on purpose. It was a big super surprise.
Yeah, they super surprised me because they used a stand-in where you only saw him in the shadow or whatever.
They were trying to fake us out. They told us he wasn't going to be on the season. It was an awesome reveal when he actually was there.
Yeah, it flipped me out a little
I liked
bit.
I remember that episode that ended with that shadow of him.
Yeah.
And we had seen that dog walking around. And I was like,
right.
And I was like, what is up with the dog? And then I remembered, that's a greyhound. In one of the very first episodes, he tells that whole story about the greyhound. I was like, oh, this is so awesome. He's going to be here.
Yeah, it did. It surprised the heck out of me.
That was good.
One of the benefits of watching it all basically in a row.
Yeah.
I remembered the greyhound story and a lot of that stuff.
Well, the one thing that stuck out to me then, if you watched recently, is like, whatever happened to old Wild Bill? The original clunky, I feel like they should have used him somewhere along the line. I miss.
And there was a shot where Yul Brynner was basically standing in the background at one point where they scrolled past.
Oh yeah,
I was
that was cool. So Dolores is down there with Bernard, and she's stopping.
To be honest, at this point, I wasn't even trying to figure out what was going on.
I've heard people say they enjoyed it more or not. Why is everybody so confused? If you don't think that much about it, there's nothing to be confused about.
I was enjoying it, but I'm like, it was hopping so much, and I'm like, I can't even pretend I'm following this at this point. Just sit back and watch it and just let it unfold.
That's how I watch. I honestly, when I watch it the first time, I don't try to figure it out. I want to actually listen to what they're saying and things.
Because the door's open and she walks out, and then 2 seconds later the door's open and someone else walks, and it's like, no, wait a minute. I'm not going to pause it and go back and figure.
Besides, everybody knows now. First season, maybe not, but everybody knows this season that there's multiple timelines, obviously.
Well, this was the main thing I wanted to bring up, if that's probably the best place to do it.
Yeah.
That, yes, season 1, that worked. And that was the water cooler thing everyone talked about. Wow, what a twist. I didn't even know. I got to go back and rewatch it and figure out what was going on. So that's Westworld's thing. And I remember even saying, well, how can season 2 top that? How could they trick us again? Or how can they twist time? And I really don't think they needed to. I think it was unnecessarily convoluted. That added very little to my enjoyment of this show. That season 1, great twist, cool thing, unique storytelling. Season 2, I'm already invested. I want to know where these characters are going. And showing me a little hint of this and a glimpse of that and a different timeline here, that doesn't help me. Ooh, I wonder what's going to happen next. I already want to know what's going to happen next.
Well, season 1, you got that as we watched through it too. You got that. Oh, okay. So this happened. It's when it comes to light for you, and then you're putting it all together. This one, I was just kind of it's whatever.
I personally, I think I like season 2 better than 1, which I know Seth has said is not the consensus. I just enjoyed it more, but I didn't get anything out of the shifting timelines and the confusion that added. It didn't. It didn't blow my mind and wow, what's happening next? No. It just didn't seem necessary for storytelling.
And the one reason it isn't necessary is because the whole the reason it worked before is you weren't supposed to know it.
Yeah.
Everybody knows it this time. I did think that they at least had an excuse for it when they explained that Bernard had to mix everything up and allow he had to not be able to know when he was. That was a good explanation.
If it was just the Bernard stuff, and every time he's on screen, he's not sure where he is, like, that's one thing, but then they just went overboard and they just seemed like they did it too much.
It was, I think, unnecessarily convoluted, but sometimes they're just too puzzle box for their own good. Yeah. So I agree with you there.
Well, I remember last year when we were talking about it, and something I wanted to see more of was outside of the park. I wanted to see how operations worked and all this theme park stuff that interested me. And then we got some of that this year, and I was like, yeah, I don't like any of this.
Yeah.
I need more cast member interaction.
Yeah.
Where's their favorite bathroom?
Exactly.
Sector 14.
They still have a payphone here. Oh, I agree. I don't know that it needed it. I'm curious how it would play out in real. They could have played it out in real time and still kept some secrets.
That would be an interesting.
Because I think they were doing it and having the whole Charlotte Dolores thing. That was supposed to help some of that be a secret, and but they could have still kept that a secret and had like one flashback.
That would be an interesting thing now after we've watched 2 seasons for somebody to go back and cut it.
Oh yeah,
all into proper time.
Somebody will do that, I'm sure. So Dolores she doesn't like this idea of everyone going into the promised land because it's just another gilded cage, to her. The real world is all that matters to her. So at this point, she's against that, and she's hitting the fail-safe. And
once again, she's making choices for people.
Oh, yeah.
Who she claims she wants to be free, but she's dictating what that means.
She's not the good guy. Mm-hmm. I don't know who is the good guy. Bernard. Teddy is the good guy. That was a good moment at the end of the episode.
Who is the good guy is what's her name? She was chained up in the cave.
Oh, Elsie.
The tech. Elsie. She's like my favorite character on the show.
Shannon Woodward, she's awesome.
She's so tiny and just takes no, gives no gut to anyone.
I loved her in the first season.
I was so happy she wasn't dead and had more screen time.
Excellent. So Bernard's ticked off because she's doing that, and he wants to see all these people be happy, even though you apparently have to be no samurai people really get to go in there. It's just
what happened to the samurais?
It's the Westworld people get to go. Anyway, so that's a cool part where he's like, "This isn't a dream; it's an effing nightmare," and he blows her away. And that was I just thought that was awesome. Jeffrey Wright is incredible on this show.
Was he nominated for anything?
I don't know who has been nominated for this show, but him and Tandy Newton are just amazing. I think all of them do an amazing job, but he is this season especially. I think he has really risen to the top.
Having to play different levels of lucid and different timelines, and in this scene I don't know this about this person. Like, that's got to be the most complicated thing for an actor.
Yeah. So he does that, kills her,
and all the twitching and hand shaking.
Yeah. Takes her brain ball, puts the Abernathy information on everybody or whatever, puts that in her head, which we don't really see this happen then, but we find out later. We see the Man in Black gets in the elevator, has been in the elevator coming down this whole time, this exact elevator that Bernard is going to go get in to go up, and when it opens, the Man in Black is not there. Further proof that is that Stinger timeline of the Man in Black. So, another page.
It's like those old storybooks, like audio storybooks, like turn the page.
Oh,
yeah.
I used to love.
When you hear the ding, turn your notebook page.
You can read along with me in your book. You will know it is time to turn the page when you hear R2-D2 beep like this. Let's begin now.
Let's talk about those.
When you have R2-D2, turn the page.
I had an Indiana Jones one that you heard the whip, so whoosh, turn the page.
This is the story of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. You can read along with me in your book. You will know it is time to turn the page when you hear the bullwhip crack like this. Let's begin.
You really did?
Yeah.
I had a Fox and Hound book with it. The names replaced with my name. It was one of the characters with some kid or whatever it was like you could buy these books and put your name in the book.
Same as your brick.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. It was like
your name on this
brick.
book.
Yeah.
Man, the Fox and the Hound. That's a sad movie.
Yeah. We could talk about it on that one list thing. Okay, so Maeve gets shot. And she's been stopping the crowd, people running through into the promised land.
That was my other question. Is lots of hosts are getting shot through this last season.
Yes.
Who is fixing them?
Okay, here we got Maeve got shot. It got killed, basically. Hector, Teddy, Armistice, Angela blew up with her grenade. Clementine, Elsie got killed. And the answer to that question is, this is an expensive show.
Wasteful. Wasting.
This is an expensive show to make, and they're thinning this crowd out.
Yeah.
And whenever they figure out who they want these brain balls to be next season, those people will come back. We see at the end of the episode Felix and Sylvester explicitly giving the orders to salvage anyone if they feel like it, and they look down at Maeve.
Yeah, that seemed to be...
Right.
Yeah, there was a comic series not too long ago where... Oh, the Spider-Man...
I thought you were going to talk about those two stormtroopers.
Oh.
Because those guys remind me of those two stormtroopers.
Tag and Bank, yeah. But yeah, there was a series recently where the Jackal cloned everyone from Spider-Man's world who had ever died. Villain, hero, family member. And at the end... Like the building blew up. It's like some of them escaped. We don't know who. So literally anyone you want to bring back, you can bring back as a... So this seemed like, yeah, anyone we want to, keep around, there's a very easy way to bring them all back or not bring them back.
So we saw the door was closing. Akichita runs, gets in there as it closes and sees his wife or girlfriend from the 8th episode. Not sure how she got there. I'm not going to overthink it. Might just be his... it's supposed to be like his paradise. Maybe he conjured her there, Who knows? So... Bernard leaves with Elsie and Charlotte. Things are flooding. This is how the flood happened that we saw in the first episode this season.
Teddy Flood.
Yeah, that's his last name, Teddy Flood.
Whoa.
Where you been, man?
That probably doesn't mean a thing. It was there the whole time.
So,
Michael always said it was underwater.
Oh, yeah, his
it's
theory.
true. All this time he was right. Atlantis. So this is when it goes nuts. This is when it's the most convoluted amount of scenes. We see them go back. Bernard's upset because all these people were killed. All these hosts were killed. And Elsie, he's trying to talk to Elsie, but she's, doesn't trust him because he's left her a couple times. And,
she's, again, the most level-headed of the whole bunch.
And he's like, he doesn't know what's going on because his mind's so messed up. And we see Charlotte come in and, she blows Elsie away. It's like, well, she's like completely evil at this point, and this is still the real Charlotte, you know. And then we flash at some point seeing him back down there at the entrance to the forge, you know, when Charlotte finds him with dead Dolores, and he's confused about who even shot Dolores. He can't remember what happened, and she finds the information ball in Dolores' head. And it's just a mess. We see where he had created, you know, he talks to Ford in his system, supposedly. We find out later he wasn't really, you know, and he was just guided by his memories of Ford, what Ford would have had him do, type thing, whatever. So much. Yeah,
that seemed very convoluted. Like, again, one of those supervillains. I've planned 50 steps ahead. I know exactly what's going to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, basically, the only thing is, it does seem super complicated when I watch it. When I get to what, in the order things happened, it really just came down to she shot Elsie, and he created a new Charlotte. You know, he went down there, did that, put the Dolores ball in her, and then when they dumped Elsie's body down there, what are we going to call her? What are we going to call Dolores Charlotte? Darlet?
Shoreless. That's bad.
I don't know.
Shoreless. Just rolls off the tongue.
Let's call her Darlet. So she comes out and kills Charlotte, and that's supposed to be the big reveal, which wasn't like super crazy. It was neat. It's like we saw in it. I'm sure if you go, I haven't done it, but I'm sure if you go back this season, anytime that they show anything after this time, I'm sure that Tessa Thompson is acting like Dolores. Mm-hmm. You know, and it's probably pretty neat, and it would probably be interesting in a rewatch.
Dorlet.
I don't know. That doesn't sound good. That's where Michael gets on the phone.
Well, yeah, Tessa Thompson and Dolores would be Turlet.
But we see, you know,
and where was well, never mind.
Anyway, so we see
Rebus.
Where was Rebus? We saw Rebus at the beginning of the season.
Rebus?
You know,
bring them all back.
Or didn't they turn? He was bad, but they turned him into a good guy early in the season. I swear that at some point, Maeve turned him good or something. Man, that's a long time ago.
Yeah.
But we see in like one of the first episodes when they're on the beach and they find Bernard and stuff. You see all these people getting executed, and he goes, "Not on my watch, hurting a woman," and they kill him. You know, it's like, and I remember thinking, why is he so good here? And then we saw like a couple episodes later, they made him good. Anyway, I like those little touches that they actually had things make sense. Because sometimes they don't. Anyway, we see Bernard start to become lucid down there by the forge, saying, you know, "Oh, I killed all of you." He's telling Strand, or I brought her back. She killed you, and say who, and Dorlet shoots Strand, and everybody, you know, very Terminator-like. She's like, you know, not turning her head and stuff, and doing all this. Anyway, that's pretty neat. But at this point, she shows how they can change their minds about things. And I don't know why. It doesn't make any sense, but I think it was just to show that they had the ability to change their minds maybe more than we can. And she decides to save these people.
But again, it's so hypocritical because there's so few of them she's going to save. Everyone else is just chattel, and she just mows down because they're in her way. she's not like freeing her people. Like that's what I thought. It was, Dolores the Freedom Fighter.
Wouldn't that make sense?
That's what I thought. A more black and white show might do.
Right.
Where my robot brethren are being oppressed. I must free them all. She's on a whole different track. Like she doesn't care about her people. She cares about herself and I don't know, maybe Teddy. That seems to be about it. And she's going to mow down anyone that's between her and that goal.
Yeah, I agree. It's not a completely consistent character. But it's not cookie cutter, like you're saying. It's not what we would have expected.
Yeah. When I thought she was the hero of the piece, and we would have to sympathize with her, and they're not asking us to sympathize with her because she's awful.
She's awful.
So, it's cool. I like the character. It's a fascinating character to watch, but you're not rooting for her.
So she, changes things. They change the coordinates of where they're sending this information of the promised land. So no one's going to be able to shut it off. They've sent the life forces, I guess, of these hosts somewhere to run a simulation of, their happily ever after. And
I think it seemed very San Junipero to me.
Yes.
They get a digital afterlife.
That's a Black Mirror episode. Watch it. Then she kills Bernard because she says, you're not gonna be able to travel like this. All I need is your brain bowl. And I'm sure in the timeline, this is back towards what we saw this whole season was, right after the last season ended, and 2 weeks later, at the same time, we saw Bernard wash up, on the beach, found by Strand and all of them, and we had also at the end of last season where Dolores started shooting people, and Bernard ran off with Charlotte. And all this time it has been coming together. That first cycle has been going for 2 weeks, and so this episode was a whole bunch of the last few days pushed together.
I could not have tracked that if you tried to pay me.
Right, well, I'm sure. It's not necessary. Anyway, so she finally has the information. So this whole time, they hit it well, the fact that Dolores was Charlotte, because...
So how much of this season was Charlotte not Charlotte?
Not a lot.
Not just just the last episode, or are we...
No, there was quite a bit of that timeline after the flood, but you have to pick pieces out of there. But
oh my! But
the reason it worked well is because Charlotte's motivation in that timeline is all along her motivation was, but it's exactly Dolores's motivation find her dad.
Yeah.
So we didn't know that it was two different people. So that was neat. Let's see. We found out, I like we see, he said, she tells, where is it, Charlotte? I can't even read my notes.
I think it says Dorlet.
Yeah, it does.
Dorlet.
Anyway, she makes some comment about reading someone's file, and I think it was, I forget who it was, but it was like, oh, okay, so this is Dolores saying how she read the book on somebody. But anyway, we get to Bernard figuring out he has to scramble his brain so Strand can't tell when he's scanning him, basically. I don't know how that works, of course, it doesn't matter, but that's their excuse for scrambling his brain.
The controls that humans have seemed very obviously inadequate.
Right.
But they don't seem to be able to tell who's a robot until they put the little thing on their neck. They don't seem to be able to stop anyone or shut anything down remotely. Everything is miles away from each other with no reliable transportation. Like, this whole place was planned very poorly.
Yeah. And they obviously can't tell.
As a theme park enthusiast, imagine.
They obviously can't
seriously,
tell.
I mean, you would think there would be some, they'd
they
mark them
wristbands.
Wristbands. Or
even putting something on their neck doesn't make sense because they do that to Dorlet at the end.
Yeah.
And they let her by.
They need to leave an eyebrow off or something.
Or two
left hands.
Yeah. Like the old G.I. Joes, they gave them all a scar.
Right.
So we're watching...
Too many points of articulation.
We're watching Dorlet walking down the beach to leave. She's leaving. And this was so ex machina. Escaping into the real world. This
Ex-Dorlet.
Yeah. Ex-Dorlet, yeah. So anyway.
But that was a cool little scene with the Lester Hemsworth brother of because again, he's not been an interesting character the whole season, but the fact that he's been run over by these upper level guys, and you get a wink of, I know what's going on, and this is they've made their bed, now they're going to lie in.
I'm going to go even further with it. He is a host.
I wasn't sure.
He says, I've been here for so long I can't even remember, so many years, and the old man gave me one job, and I guess you could say it was my core drive.
See, I took that as him I could be a host, who cares?
I think it was supposed to come off like that, but it's been confirmed.
Oh, okay.
By show creators.
Boo show creators.
I have one job.
He had one job, yeah.
Don't tell me stuff I want to
But anyway, he says, but I like how he's saying it. They push my job, I have to follow my core drive. And my core drive is to protect the hosts, or take care of the hosts on this island. And he's like, but I support this robot rebellion you got going on here, so I'm going to stick to my one core drive.
But I like it better as a human.
I agree.
Being among all these robots, realizing we're not that different. I am programmed by these people, and I'm forced to be in my loop, even though I'm still human.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I can't help.
Although that Hemsworth bone structure, man, that can't be natural. That's got to be man-made.
Yeah, you think that comes natural? No way. No way. That took a machine. A machine. So Dorlet's got a bag full of brain balls. She's got 5 brain balls in there. We know we've got one's Bernard, and we don't know who the rest are.
Where's Abernathy? What happened to him?
He got stapled to the chair.
Did we smuggle out the content, the tech?
I don't know. I don't know.
The stuff the Delos people were obsessed with, I don't remember where it ended up.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't think they got it back.
Yeah, it might be one of them bowls. So we hear Bernard saying, Dolores, is this now? Because she gets off the island, she gets to leave. And they're in the basement. Yes. I call in on you, Jordan.
I raised my hand. And didn't they say everyone had a bomb in their vertebrae or something? The host couldn't leave?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm sure he made
So when
this
he
one
made the new
one.
Well, did we explain, can he do that?
I assume so.
Let's see.
He made it himself. They showed him there positioning the bones and everything. So
okay.
I doubt he was like, I got to put this bomb in here.
Well, you'd think they got factory spines would ship in with the bombs already pre-uploaded. They go through so many of them.
Right. Put them with the Pokemon cards. So she said, she's explaining that we see there at Arnold's house that we saw earlier in the season. That Frank Lloyd Wright house is what it is, but they're in there, and that Ford has set it up with a printer, to print out a thing for him to give him a head start. And she's down there talking to him and saying, you live as long as the last person remembers you. Is that ghost story thing again? Yeah. And the house has a printer. He can't let her kill everyone. He's telling her this is one of those things. There has to be a show that did this where such the good guy and the bad guy work together, but knowing they're going to have to be enemies again. That was such what she was going for. She's like, we're going to need each other to do this, and yes, only one of us will win, but it won't be them, She brought him because she will need him, but she knows he'll be against her. And I'm just like, what the heck is going to happen next season?
And I'm still a little lost on Ford's motivation, we'll say, of like...
Ford's motivation has been AI takeover.
So, but it's not the simplistic of like, it's a pure thing. We can't let an evil corporation take over. Like, again, on a simpler show, it would be the creative, good guy versus the people who want to use his creation for evil. Well, Ford doesn't seem to mind it being used for evil, just not, he wants them to be evil by themselves or what. I don't know. He just...
I think he realized they are I can't believe we didn't talk about movies that episode. And talk about that movie I saw. But it's such a 2001 thing to be like... He
has recognized the evolution.
The evolution, yeah. And this is where...
has accepted his fate.
That's kind of how I felt about the Sizemore scene where people were complaining about that. I thought he was kind of accepting that I'm going to sacrifice myself. Maybe I don't need to die this moment, but I'm going out the way I want to go out, and I'm letting these, the higher being move on. I don't know. It's a show.
I don't like it.
So then we get
robot, no higher being.
We see, Charlotte come in. Also, we've got a Dolores, a Bernard, and a Charlotte body, but we don't know whose brain ball is in that yet. And they leave him, and he ends up walking out of the house into the world that we don't know what it looks like now at this time or what's going on. But then we get credits, and then we get the stinger. If you didn't see the stinger, boy, you missed out. We see the Man in Black gets to the basement finally with his hand blown off, and he sees Emily, his daughter, who's not really his daughter. It's much like Logan was the AI for his dad, being in the circle room. She is for her dad, and we kind of find out that he's been running through a simulation to see if he could change, and no, he always kills his daughter. This is just my interpretation. I don't really know. I don't think we have enough information.
Yeah, like where does the loop, quote unquote, start for him?
Right.
Is it where we first met him?
It possibly doesn't have to go. It doesn't have to go all the way back.
Yeah.
It could go back to just before he kills her. See if he kills her. I don't know. But we do know that this. She says this has taken way longer than we even thought. So it could be hundreds of years.
In which we set up with Delos that it's decades and decades for him.
Right.
Yeah. So, and we also...
So when he was digging in his arm, he was a host at that point, right? Or would that have been his first trip?
No. This whole series that we've been watching until then, he was a human. It is at the original run.
That's his first trip to the main.
So it's not like, all this time he's been a host. No. Yeah. This is a new thing. And again, I read an interview with Lisa Joy, one of the showrunners, and she's not willing to, they haven't given us all the information, and this isn't, we don't necessarily know what is going on with him, and that this is in a future, she said, where things have flipped. It's no longer us monitoring hosts. It's flipped. So do with that what you will.
We're in a human zoo.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The cookbook is for people.
We did always see when they were in the... did you ever notice this season? When they were in the simulation stuff, the aspect ratio changed. It went...
Oh, no.
Yeah, it was a big thing all season. When it was simulation, it was the aspect ratio went down to the letterbox or whatever. So basically the conversation, when he shows up down there and sees her, he's like, oh, F. I'm in the thing. And he's like, she says, it's what's left of your world. He's like, in the park, in my park, right? But she's like, what were you hoping to prove? And he said he was trying to prove that he had a choice, where basically he had learned, that about this. Somewhere along the line, he has probably learned that they don't have a choice. Like James Dallas always turned down his son. He always killed his daughter. So that's probably what he was trying to find out.
This is a pretty cynical show about human nature.
Oh yeah. She said, I just have a few questions to verify. And he says, verify what? Fidelity. We all, of course, saw coming. And that conversation, I go back to, I like that where Bernard and Ford were talking, about, because the episode was called The Passenger or whatever. Just talking about how humans are just passengers of simple code with no real free will. And that was basically it. It ended there. We don't, where will it go in the third season? I can't wait. Basically we've got to be out of the park now. Here's what it comes down to. I think we'll still have some park because we got Felix and Sylvester are going to save Maeve, I'm sure, and there'll be something park wise. But the majority of this tells me that there is a money problem, and on HBO for Westworld, and they wanted to keep, this is an overly expensive show, so now they got rid of all this high paying cast, and they got rid of, they can go in the real world, which costs nothing to have a season in.
But it's called Westworld.
Well,
that's the only thing.
That's what I said.
Change the name to Real World.
That's why I think there's been 20-some seasons.
What happens when
Puck shows
when some robots stop being AI and start getting rude?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
So you don't think we're going to get hundreds of years in the future when Dolores has won and the world's a smoking crater?
I don't think so.
That was just hinted at. We're not going to get to that.
I think we'll have get ready multiple times. I would say, I think we'll get far future. Maybe
they'll have purple guns.
We'll get. People talk like this is this.
I can't wait to see the future guns.
The world the world that Dolores and them are going to. People have tracked by looking clues and everything that it's somewhere like 30, 40 years in our future.
Space Force.
Yeah, exactly.
So broad strokes, where are you now when you ended first season? Are you on a similar level of fandom or enjoyment? Or?
Yeah, it's a weird series for me. It doesn't hit me the way it does other people. It's interesting, but I don't really I don't know. It's just like, okay.
I like their themes. I like the first season better because it was a simpler puzzle. I think it was easier for everyone to get, maybe not catch it at first, but everybody should get the same enjoyment from the reveal. And that was such a simple, clever story. And the second one is so much more convoluted, I think. I like the puzzle box, but I think it was too much.
So many shows have certain seasons that are better than others. I just don't know after the first season, the time they spent on it, the money they spent on it, that they can ever come close to that.
I agree with that, but I didn't think they could come that close, and I think that they came pretty close. I really did like the second season. I liked the way it ended. I liked the twist. I liked this deal with the humans not being as complicated and all that. I liked them actually getting off the island. I loved Jeffrey Wright, and there were so many things that I loved about it. I expected them to fall on their faces in the second season, and that did not happen for me.
Yeah, like I said on the previous podcast, I liked that they widened the scope. I didn't get hung up on the details, so I wasn't like, whoa, you didn't explain this. Like, I just went with the flow. And that's fine, because again, like Cliff said, it's not my favorite show. I think it's really well made and really interesting, and I'm glad I watched it. But I'm not going to rewatch it over and over again and fill up notebooks full of notes.
It's not Riverdale.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
Is it bad if you do it for both of those shows?
But on the Venn diagram of obsessive
there
fans,
are very few people that have the
and they all have their own podcast.
Overlap. It's just me standing there and that overlap. I got to say something real quick because this is bothering me. One thing that's bothering me about the show, but I feel like it's gotten so complicated, I don't even know if that's what they're going for. But the idea of this whole deal, like we're going to make a AI you so you can live forever, is false to me because I'm still dead. I don't care if you made something like me, so I don't live forever. In order for that to happen, I die, and I'm not going to know any of that ever happened. That new being may think they were me. You may have magically made them have my memories and all that, but that still is not me. I'm dead. So I've never understood how that is an answer. You know, I think it goes back to those people wanting to be remembered forever. They get to live in, forever like that, but that has bugged the heck out of me. It's always good back. Spoilers for The Prestige. You're getting them right now. That's a great magic trick, but you die every freaking time, and I don't think there's enough attention paid to that.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought of that we're not talking about uploading your consciousness or whatever.
No.
It's your data,
That's
your
my
code.
idea of living forever. If you could put my consciousness into that, now we're talking.
Yeah.
But not a copy of my consciousness. That's not what I want. I don't care I don't need that.
But I did like, because when that was revealed, this whole park is for rich people to try to live forever. It was like, okay, I guess that's a good twist. But then to twist and say, no, it's more like Facebook where we're mining all your data and your memory. And I'm like, what are they blackmailing them, or what? What are they using this data for? Like, that interested me a lot more. And I was like, no, we're using the data to make even more hosts. Like, I don't know.
I think that
too big to even contemplate.
Well, I think that they can rein it back in next season. If they start out, if they've got these just few people going into the real world, I think they can do some really interesting things. They can tell a simple story again.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about the next season. So a couple of years from now, we'll get it.
But yeah, I like that this season switched some things up. And like I said before, we had the episode everyone loved that followed the Native American character. That was just so heart-wrenching. His story was so good. I loved the samurai episode because the only thing I like as much as westerns are samurai movies, and we got a little hour-long samurai movie right in the middle of things. And the highlight of the whole second season was them playing Wu-Tang Clan on the Japanese instrument, and it took me like, what is that tune? I was like, what is that? It's Wu-Tang Clan! Like, I had such a moment of joy when that clicked for me. I was like, oh, that's amazing.
Oh yeah. Well, when Cliff sent me the message,
and Cliff should add that song in while we're talking.
Sure.
When you messaged Paint It Black, when that episode was playing, and they were, and everything came flooding in as they were entering the samurai, and Paint It Black was playing, and I was like, this is like the first episode.
Yeah.
Only it's Japanese Paint It Black. I was like, these are all copies of them. And Lee Seisner was like, I ran out of ideas.
So awesome.
I was like, this is so good. The more we talk about it, the more I love. I feel like they pulled it off. It was just a little bit much.
Like, the shogunate who deafens all his followers. Like, that's such a samurai story.
Yeah.
And the duel of honor for the Ronin that lost his master. Like, all that stuff is so awesome.
Yeah. Once they got past the first season, and they had a little room to breathe this season to do those bottle episodes, that was without them, I think it would have not been as good, for sure. Well, that should be it.
Okay.
We did it.
Got a title? Bag full of brain balls?
Dorlet?
Dorlet?
Or Chekhov's brain balls?
Chekhov's brain balls.
Yeah, let's go to Chekhov's brain balls. I like that.
So that's it for Westworld. We didn't give it the hours we did last season, but hopefully this makes up for it. If you have weird theories or ideas or something we didn't touch on, please comment.
Yeah.
Especially on Facebook, tweet us, do something. Where can I find those avenues, Mr. Barnes?
www.udownwithkpp.com or at the Ka-Pow podcast. It's really late. It's been a long day.
It's not as late as our last few episodes.
That's true. At the Ka-Pow podcast on the Twitter, or of course on our Facebook page.
Beam straight to your brain ball.
That's right.
Every week.
I'm Seth. Bye forever.
As always. The timeline shifted.
Oh, what happened?
We went out of order. Temporal craziness, dudes.
Ka-Pow, the pop culture podcast, is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Sounds, music, and clips played during the podcast are property of copyright holders. All original content is property of www.udownwithkpp.com.